Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to Respawn Station. My name is Kandula, and today I'm joined by Nick Sivak to talk about video games and why there should be banned. Really, I think we've had enough of these video games. Really, but no. This is the official podcast of RespawnStation.com. And in this very kind of official first episode, we've done like at least 3 false starts on this thing. So here's hoping this is the real one. Only time will tell if I'll look back and I'm like, I did 4 of these and we never made it past episode 1. But no, this was something we've been wanting to do for a while, and then we did. Originally, we did a Far Cry 6 review, and I think that's still up on podcast platforms. And then we did, Nick and I did a Resident Evil Village review that just, the audio did not work out. And so that was a scrapped episode, lost to time.
Lost media.
And then we did another one, I think last summer for Summer Game Fest, talking about like kind of stuff like that. But yeah, this is it. This is how this will be the official kind of medium in which we'll do it. And this is also the first time we've done an actual, like, we've committed to doing this. We're live on the channel, and we're hoping that we can keep it consistent. So, and feel free to hold us accountable for it as we go forward. Just spam Nick with texts or tweets saying, "Nick, when's the next episode?" And I'm sure we'll get it done. He's in charge around here. Nick's the big man that calls all the shots. And so
the one in the shadows, pulling the strings.
Yeah, and one of my favorite. I mean, I always this goes back to like when Nick and I first met, and it's just we're introducing backstory into this Nick already. This is how you know it's going to be a good podcast. Well, Nick and I, when we first met, we used to do this thing for a TV show type of thing that we were doing, and he would always edit, and so like whenever we were talking, like in general kind of conversation, before Nick and I really like became friends and we started talking, we'd always be like, Nick, he's the guy. Like, so like, we're like, oh man, we need to cut this in. Where's Nick? Like, it's just like, he's the man in charge that we run it by. And so now it's here it is. And I say that like occasionally I'll drop that through this, like in a stream. I'll be like, if only Nick will let me do it. And I don't think anyone understands that, like that joke, but it's a callback for me. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I guess we'll start with a little bit of, continuing with the backstory of what, like, of us, like Respawn Station, how it happened, how we came to be, and then we'll kind of, naturally progress through everything we have on the docket. There's no real time limit. We're estimating that it'll take an hour, but Nick and I are known for talking about video games. I mean, we can, I think
8 hours.
Yeah, this is it. We go for the record on this one, but so back in 2020, during the COVID, everyone was doing things that they're like, oh, what else am I going to do? We decided to start a website. It's kind of like a small blog where we talk about what we wanted to, what we were into. Originally, in 2020, it had a different name, a totally different branding. Back then, I don't think Nick wrote for it back then. But in 2021, or like as soon as we turned into the new year, we did a rebranding, and I remember I messaged Nick about it, and he's like, "Yeah, the last one didn't really make sense." He's just waiting. He was just waiting until we came to the realization on our own. But since then, no, Respawn Station, we've been, it's been a really, really fun kind of ride for all of us in terms of both the games that we've gotten to play, the connections that we've made into the people that are kind of in this industry. It's very fun, and if you need any more validity, our website apart from brings in hundreds of readers every week, clamoring to hear about what I have to say in like 2 paragraphs, and Nick has to say in maybe like 2,000 words.
Right. Like 5 paragraphs times 5.
But yeah, so. But with that said, the real credibility here is we were featured. Nick knows this. We were featured on the review card, like accolades card, for my time at Sandrock last year, which was awesome. It was the first time we'd been featured.
That was you, Congratulations.
There it is. It was definitely a landmark moment where I shared it with everyone. I was like, we did it. We finally did it. But yeah, here we are. So this every episode will kind of have a similar format as we continue to kind of evolve. I'm sure more kind of segments will be included in. But I think the easiest way to really start a conversation about gaming is what we're playing. So, Nick, I've been doing all the talking so far, so I'll let you take the lead on this one. What have you been playing? I know there's some good ones on there. It's on the screen right now.
Sweet. Yeah. So obviously, I play a lot of stuff, Sri, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
But I actually wanted to throw in a little bit of some randomness or like some surprise here. So I'm gonna let you control what game I talk about.
Oh, shit. Okay.
You can choose between the big game, the old game, or the newer game that looks old.
The newer game that looks, I think I know what the newer game that looks old is, but I am gonna pick that one because I would love to hear what you think of it.
Sure thing. So the newer game that looks old is Warhammer 40K Boltgun,
right.
Which you played, correct? Last year,
shit.
like around when it came out.
Yes, yeah. I played and I think I reviewed it as well.
Nice.
You can go ahead and share your thoughts while I pull back in time for mine.
Yeah, so I was obviously busy with other stuff at the time, but I'm a big FPS and specifically like the retro style shooter, boomer shooter, whatever you want to call them, kind of that genre of shooter.
Right.
And that's pretty much Warhammer 40K Boltgun. It is a old school style shooter, level based. You got health and armor, loud guns, lots of gore, pixel graphics, all the kind of hallmarks that you come to expect from one of those games. But I didn't really have the time around when it came out. But fast forward to now, it's on Xbox Game Pass, and I'm not playing 800 other things that I want to play. So I was like, let's boot up 40K Boltgun and give it a try.
Have you beaten it?
I have not yet.
Okay,
I'm in the second chapter, about halfway through it. So I think I'm at like basically the halfway.
So you're like 4 hours in or something like that, or
about that, 4 or 5.
Makes sense.
I think. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Last year I reviewed Turbo Overkill, which was one of my favorite shooters of the last like half decade.
Right.
And Boltgun by comparison like isn't as bombastic or like energetic or anything like that.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's also like not as diverse, or you know what I mean, in terms of like gameplay kind of systems or mechanics.
Exactly. Boltgun is definitely more traditional. You have your kind of classes of weapons, you have your health and armor, you have like a dash move that I don't really use, and you have like a melee kind of attack, but that's mainly about it. So it's much more traditional, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not everything needs to have like 800 different systems that you're interacting with or whatever.
Yeah.
But as a result of it, I would still say that it's like like I'm having a fun time with it, and it's definitely good, and I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely just kind of more like, oh yeah, this is like a retro shooter. It's not really surprising me in many ways.
No, So I mean, okay, so before we go off, because I do have a tangential topic about retro shooters to talk about, but so I gave it an 8 out of 10, and I said Warhammer 40K Boltgun is a great retro shooter. It combines fun gunplay with fast movement and impressive level design to make a game for both longtime Warhammer fans and newbies like me. I'm not gonna read the rest. You can go ahead over to respawnstation.com for that, but no. So I did really like it in the end, even though it was like I've never played a Warhammer thing really before. But
this is my second Warhammer game.
Oh yeah, you played Hired Gun, right?
Yeah, Necromunda.
How does it compare?
Boltgun is better.
Okay.
Necromunda like looks newer and stuff. Like it has like it's like a double A.
And that was the one I wanted to play actually, but I just never got around to it.
Yeah, like it has like interesting art style and stuff, but it definitely feels more like generic and not like, you know,
Sure.
as beefy as you would want it to. Uh Boltgun definitely feels a lot more like it knows what it is more. Like it definitely leans into that retro aesthetic and it's like kind of campy. So like I really like that stuff.
Right. Right.
But also just like the shooting feels a lot better. Not to say that Necromunda was like bad, but it
Sure.
just kind of it felt more jank like a 3D modern shooter could feel, whereas everything feels like super crisp and tight
Bolt gun.
with Boltgun.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
one thing
Go
that I
ahead.
texted you about that I do have kind of like a nitpick with is that like a lot of the enemies are feeling like kind of spongy
Sure.
when I'm shooting. Like it seems like kind of like how modern shooters are designed, where you know certain enemies are weak to different types of weapons or
Yeah.
like specific types of equipment. Um, but sometimes that's not exactly easy to pick up on in the game. That I should be
No, I
using like
definitely
you
agree.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
this weapon on this enemy or whatever. So like sometimes I'll be like switching to different weapons, trying things, and then I'll just like default to the bolter, which is like a really fun weapon to use.
Yeah.
But then you're just like sitting there for 20 seconds on one enemy trying to
Yeah.
get that health bar down.
And
So that's like my one
it
little
has these
nitpick.
like arenas, the kind of gameplay loop or whatever of the game. There's connecting areas and lanes, but ultimately there's these kind of arena like spaces where it'll lock down the area, and then it'll be like there's a time limit of like and then you have to like go kill everything. I don't think there's a
Hmm.
time limit. I'm not sure, but you have to kill everything. And
Yeah.
but like that's the kind of general idea, but it can get so chaotic in the like in I mean, I don't even know if you've gotten to some of them, but like I remember there's certain boss fights or like those kind of areas that are just so like goddamn hectic, and you're just kind of like gripping the controller, and so that I think that I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. But what I was gonna say was with like with we've covered quite a few retro shooters over the last few years. So I'm guessing I know the answer is probably Turbo Overkill is your favorite of kind of I mean, you've I know you've played Project Warlock 2 as well.
I
Um,
did play the first one. I don't think I did a write up on that one necessarily, but I
right.
did play that before
Mm-hmm.
doing that
Um,
like coverage or whatever.
and I've played like Scathe, which I don't think it actually even is a retro shooter in terms of graphics. Right? I don't know even know if yeah, but it's the same kind of aspect of like you're kind of an arena shooter, flying around shooting.
Hmm.
But would Turbo Overkill be your favorite still? But based on your review,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Turbo Overkill is kind of far and away like my favorite of the ones I've played in recent years. There was two main shooters that were on like my radar for the longest time. Turbo Overkill was one of them, and the other one is Ultra Kill, which is still in early access.
mm,
Um, that would probably be the only one that would rival Turbo Overkill. Um, I haven't played much of it because I'm kind of waiting to see if it ever comes out of early access. I mean, it's been in
sure,
early access for so long. It's like that's just kind of like I want to wait until it's a finished game, stamped and approved, so
right,
that way I can play through it. But like pretty much like everything I've heard from it is it's amazing, and it's from New Blood, who like most of the stuff that I've played from them or seen from them looks awesome. So it's like I'm really looking forward to that one. But yeah, Turbo Overkill just kind of, it hit every note to the level it needed to, and then some, and then still had room for surprises, which was
yeah,
like,
yeah, which
that's
was
all you ever
crazy. I
want.
mean, I remember. I mean, obviously, I read your review, and then obviously seeing it kind of. You also made the our first kind of video review, and it kind of. I mean, I will say, I mean, that's people like that one. It was a popular video. Um, But for me, I have to admit that it's been a busy few weeks, so I haven't been able to play as many. Oh my god, I gave a thumbs up for some reason. Um, I haven't been able to play as much as I would like. Mainly, if I'm playing on stream. But so I'm going to run through the stuff I've been playing. Ah, shit! I just punched my mic. Red Dead Redemption 2. It's behind me. I've it's I'm taking my time with it, but it is it's so the reason, if you're wondering, the overlay is, if for the video watchers, there's Red Dead 2 and Cyberpunk 2077. It's because I made Nick play Cyberpunk and he made me play Red Dead, and so and Nick has finished Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty, and Jesus Christ, I keep punching my mic. And I'm like probably, I don't even know how many hours into Red Dead 2, but man, it is a good one. And because I haven't been able to play off stream, whenever I'm streaming, I just occasionally just stream Red Dead. Like, it's just, I'm in the middle of the game. I'm not even like, there's no continuity. I'm just streaming it for the hell of it, and there's always some random shit that happens. It's a very entertaining game. Only nitpick, the goddamn controls are like so, like I'm like, feel like I have to relearn how to walk every time I'm playing the game.
Yeah, that's the one like major criticism that the game has always, had since it came out, is the controls.
Yeah.
I will say, like, you know, your specific circumstance of like having like, less time to play or whatever probably doesn't help where you have to do that relearning
Yeah.
every once in a while. But like, at a certain point, I think it does get a little bit better, or you at least get used to it.
Yeah. And then, but on stream, I've been playing Pokemon Emerald. My goal is to finish it for the very first time. I've played it so many times, but I haven't finished it, so I'm trying to finish it. Remnant from the Ashes, fun Souls-like shooter. Kind of. I don't know if I would necessarily classify it as a I don't think it's a roguelike. But it definitely has the element of death, and kind of that whole thing is, and it's a Souls-like. I played the first game, or the prequel, whatever you want to call it, Chronos, Before the Ashes. But it's my first time really going into Remnant, and man, it is a tough fucking game. It's kicked my ass so many times, just over and over again. But people seem to like it.
Is it fun? It's one that's been on my radar, and I heard good things about the sequel. So
that's actually what I'm trying to work my way up to. I've heard really good things about Remnant 2, and so I'm like playing through the first one, and then stepping off of it for the second one. But and then and then the last game I'm playing is Wolfenstein Youngblood. I'm coming hot off the heels, maybe lukewarm off the heels of playing Old Blood back in February, and so Alexa and I are playing co-op through Youngblood, and man, first of all, if it wasn't co-op, I'd be not playing it anymore. It was like there's so many things that I for how much I liked Old Blood, I feel like I'm having like a total kind of like a crisis of like, did I ever like that game? Like was it like this? And then I'm like, so I'm going through it, but
I never played that one.
Dude,
I played Old Blood, New Colossus, and New Order.
New Order, right?
Yeah, I never played Youngblood.
It's it's weird. It has weird decisions like that. Like there's like a skill perk system that I just didn't quite understand. But nevertheless, that game, I will see it through to the end. The one good thing I can say about it is that it has these kind of really cool, like occasional set pieces. Like there's a scene, like the last time I played, that you kind of walk onto like the scaffolding, and like this giant blimp is flying by, and then you look down, and you can see the city, kind of cars driving by. It's cool detail and stuff. So, not all bad. But anyway, with that said, Nick, let's talk a little bit about what's just kind of generally, what's kind of been going on in the gaming world.
Yeah, sure. So, I went around looking for some headlines and stuff from the last week, and as I texted you earlier, it seems like it's kind of like a bit of a light week, but I was able to find some stuff that I
Tell
think
me the
would be
PS6 didn't leak.
Oh yeah, leaks are always the best things to talk about. Don't get anybody online.
The clicks. That's
ever.
how you get the clicks.
Do you want to talk about the ones that we might not have much to say on first, and then have the conversation one second, or start with like the more conversationally one?
Ooh, mix it around. Mix it around. I mean, like, kind of let's see how we go. We'll pace it up.
Cool. So one thing that I saw today, well, GDC, the Game Developers Conference, has been going on this week, or is like starting today. Couldn't really get
No. I
you know,
think
a firm date on
I
that,
think it
but
was 18th through the 22nd.
okay, so we're
I've
like
read
in the
so
middle
many
of it
emails today
now,
with so many dates, but I think that one is correct.
right? Um, Basically, I'm always kind of interested to see what kind of talks come out of GDC. Sometimes you can get some really interesting insights from developers that
Yeah.
usually don't talk about stuff. Like I know a couple years ago, the some developers from the Breath of the Wild team talked about some Zelda, behind the scenes stuff, and they have like images that the Zelda community still use to talk about things from those talks. And I believe there's a Tears of the Kingdom chat that's happening. So
Oh.
always some cool stuff. But the one main thing that I wanted to touch on was that I did see on Twitter that I believe it's Rafael Colantonio. He was the game director, I believe,
God
of
of War?
Weird West,
Never
actually.
mind. No, the
Um,
wrong one. Sure. Go ahead.
yeah. He's head of like Wolf Eye Studios. He was formerly of Arcane.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
they are pitching a new game at GDC, and they had like a picture of a boardroom or whatever with a whiteboard, and on the whiteboard it says, let me check here, first person retro sci-fi RPG. So that's basically right up my alley.
First person retro sci-fi RPG. Man,
Yep.
hit those boxes, Nick.
So yep, that checks a lot of boxes that I like. So I saw that on Twitter, and thought that would be an interesting thing to bring up, because Arcane, obviously, I played a little bit of Weird West when it came out,
Right.
and I kind of bounced off of it pretty quickly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if it was just like I wasn't really in the mood, or if it was something with the gameplay wasn't really clicking. But again, a first-person sci-fi retro RPG, like, there you could say less, and I'd be in. So
So, I mean, regarding, I just keep giving thumbs up. This is a great episode. I think everyone should leave a like. But nevertheless, speaking of speaking of GDC, there's actually a really interesting email that we got while I was sifting through 83 emails from the last week. Is essentially there's this. It's called Keoken Interactive. It's Keoken. They reveal 5 games that are in urgent need of investment. And so they're essentially relying on the communities to spread the word about it. And I believe they're actually going to be at GDC. Yes, you can find them at the Royal Blue in the Royal Blue outfits at the Game Developers Conference taking place in San Francisco on March 18th to 22nd. No, look at that, Nick! I nailed it.
got it.
But no,
Bonus points.
so the thank you. There's 5 games. They said there's a We Are Human, a philosophical thriller that emphasizes mind-bending combat and traversal. It's coming to PC and console, the goal is to get it on PC and console, I'm guessing. Delivers home a solitary astronaut experience about finding home, PC and console. Delivers the moon, Huygens, an unsettling survival experience taking place during the blackout, PC and console. Deliver us VR, an immersive astronaut experience that brings you back to the moon. VR headsets. And Expeditions, a co-op Souls-like top-down shooter, totally different, featuring a rich narrative on Pangea Proxima, PC and console. So that's interesting. I mean, well, I hope that there's something clicks here during GDC while they're there.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from on Twitter or on the internet in general that just like it's brutal right now, especially with like all the layoffs and stuff like that. Like people are
Yeah,
not
no, it
opening
is.
their wallets for a lot of projects. So
Yeah.
I wish the best of luck to them as well, because it's not sound fun. Trying to
Dude, not
get
at
money
all.
right now.
Yeah, I know. I definitely agree, and I feel like there's like an entire kind of episode's worth of topic about just talking about the industry and so far in 2024 alone, um, because it's been just a real shit show of how many thousands of people have already in the gaming industry specifically have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, here's a random thought though. Actually, no. I'll save it. I'll save it. This is actually it's one of the topics I think you might have written down. So I'm not gonna. For Nick has like a he had plotted. You know, there's like a 50 episodes worth of topic. I mean, when the world ends, you guys can tune in. We'll still be talking about this stuff. I'll call it Four Dog Radio. And that's that. We're gonna trademark that, man.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, is there? Go ahead. Is there anything else kind of big on the docket?
Yeah, I got two. Do you want the more fun topic or the one
No, we'll
that's
save the
like
fun one for the last. So
cool? So the less fun one, I guess, depending on who you ask, um, one that stood out to me was that Sony announced that they are freezing production of the PSVR 2 headsets because they can't sell through the inventory that they
current
already
stock. That's crazy.
have.
uh, I feel like the PSVR 2 started so strong.
That's kind of what I was like thinking about while putting the list together because I was like, they had Horizon Call of the Mountain
Yep.
at launch, and it like they seemed like it was going to be this huge thing, like Sony's going to be pushing back into
Sony's
VR
Half-Life
again.
Alex.
Exactly, and I mean we have like there's good games that pop up every now and then,
Right.
but I don't really think that they've done a whole lot since Horizon. Weirdly enough,
No,
like
I have yeah, and that's the thing. I think currently my idea or my thoughts on it is that you know anything that is not a Sony exclusive. So like there was one I think it's called Asgard's Wrath 2 or something like that or 3, one of those. Just recently came out and apparently it's like this fantastic like I think like people say it's like one of the best definitive VR games. And it's on the Meta Quest 3 or whatever the new latest one is. So it's not like you can get I mean Sony can't yet. I mean, I know they're acquiring quite a few studios, and some of the studios they have are, I think, like VR specific developers too. But unless they get like these kind of like are able to pump out yearly or twice a year first party exclusive that are like God of War, Ragnarok, or of VR, I don't think they're kind of tempt enough people. Like I have a PSVR 1, and I'm not tempted to upgrade anytime soon.
I think that was the brutal thing with the VR2 also was that it wasn't backwards compatible with any of the VR1 games. So it's like
what Sony thing is, dude. What backwards?
exactly.
It's not in their vocab.
Like I have a VR game. I don't have PSVR1. it's Deracine, which was a From Software game. And that was mainly the only reason I bought it. I was like, I was into. For
Sure.
those who don't know, I collect a lot of video games physically. That's how I primarily like to, play my games.
Yep.
And so, like, I grabbed it and I was just like, yeah, I was in a mood to collect From Soft games, and I got it, and I was just like, well, now I can't even get a VR2 and play it. It's like I have to get the janky old one with a million cables if I ever want to play that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just thought that was like, an interesting little news piece this week because it's just like what are they gonna do? Like if they're freezing it and nobody's buying it, they're not gonna
What's the
start pushing
what's the
more
plan?
games out for it. So it's like
Yeah,
weird.
I mean it's really I'd be fascinated to see how they progress, but at the same time,
You actually real quick, you mentioned it before, and I honestly thought when they announced the VR2 that this was like a lock and that was getting a port of Half-Life Alex. Because everybody was
sure.
saying that is like, as far as VR games go, you have like your kind of higher echelon, and then it just seems like Half-Life Alex.
Yeah,
It's
above
like
it for sure.
the pinnacle. And so it's like I thought that was a lock when they announced that was going to be like, all right, and now here's your console way to play Half-Life Alex, and then it's like
That's a.
It
I
never
mean, I
happened.
don't know. Is a Sony and Valve collab? Is that on our bingo cards? I don't think. I don't think I can see it
I
coming.
mean, you know, Valve came out on an E3 stage. I remember first. I think it was a Sony one for Portal 2,
Oh
but like
damn.
that was kind
Oh
of the
damn.
last thing.
Yeah. Well,
So
dude, E3's
who
dead,
knows?
man. E3's dead. We can't talk about that anymore.
Right,
This is
pour one out.
it's the reality. Yeah. Well, all right, what's the fun topic then? What's the big one?
So the fun one happened today. I'm guessing you saw this, but Epic Games was doing a State of Unreal presentation,
Oh
and
no.
in that presentation, Amy Hennig came out, and I don't believe her game had a title before now.
Oh, the
But
Marvel one, the Black Panther, Captain America one.
yep, they had some stuff to show from that game, and it is called
Wait, they
Marvel
showed gameplay?
1943. No gameplay,
Oh, okay,
but
okay,
they
okay.
showed some in-engine stuff.
Oh, okay, okay. And so what was it
Um,
called?
Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra is the official title.
Damn, what a what a title. That's a hefty title.
They described it, a while back when it was first announced as a narrative-driven blockbuster action adventure game.
Yeah,
So kind of, Amy Hennig known for Uncharted and all that. So
yeah, yeah,
probably guessing something similar here.
yeah.
But it is running on Unreal Engine 5, and while they didn't have a specific release date, it did give a window of 2025. So that game is coming out next year. As
They did
far
a
as things.
that was from they announced that like during a Marvel or Lucas Arts showcase or something like that, right? It was just like it
I think
was
so. It was a
back to
while
back
back,
with like a
yeah.
bunch of stuff. But no, I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, I think that the that team behind that game just is just top notch. So I keep giving thumbs up, dude. What the hell's going on?
Yeah,
Um,
they showed some in-engine stuff. Specifically, like they actually had a really cool setup where somebody was on the in the editor view for Unreal Engine, and
mhm.
then somebody had a virtual camera on stage, so they could move around
Oh,
the environment
that's
while they
pretty
were
dope.
highlighting things. They were showing like some visual effects and stuff like that, and then they showed like character models, and it was all as they said, running in real time on Unreal Engine 5.
Whoa,
And
damn.
it did look really good. I'm not super hot into superhero stuff right now. Like I've kind of been burnt out
What
on
are
it.
you talking about, man? You're not watching Ant-Man 4 inside the Quantum Manius?
No, I'm not really. But I will say, I mean, I'm interested in good games, and
Yeah.
what I saw, I was like, hey, this looks pretty good, and it actually does look next gen. I know that's something that's also been a talking point in online circles, where it's like, when are we gonna get something that looks next gen? We've been in here in this gen for a couple years
I've
now,
I always have that
and it does look
struggle,
pretty good.
and I think that COVID really messed it all up as well because like I go like several years into a generation, like well into the generation, and I'm still calling it like the next gen. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, like it's the current gen now. Like we've come to the present. We are the future now, and so I still call like I'll still catch myself saying like, oh yeah, the next gen consoles, but I'm like, no, that's just that's the consoles. And then we got to go for the PS4 is the last gen or the Xbox
Mm.
One. But with that said, we're already on the horizon with I think the PS4 Pro there or sorry PS5 Pro was something like that was there was like some specs reveal that happened. Um, we're already at the pros now, and then also there's the I'm not a I'm not a person who's gonna talk go out of the way to talk about leaks, but this is specifically from the what happened last year when Xbox uploaded the files to a public server that they weren't supposed to, and like there was like a Xbox Series like X Pro or whatever,
Hmm.
that was like a dustbin shaped console, and I think that's also kind of coming out soon, like probably next year. I think I would imagine. So we're already there, and I'm still struggling to say next gen or current gen. There it is again, but nevertheless.
Right.
Now it's time to talk about not the current gen, but not the gen before that, but a few generations ago. Games that came out a while ago, specifically Battlefront, the classic, what was it? The classic edition?
Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection.
Classic collection. And the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 trilogy remastered. I think is the something like that for the name. So first of all, I think that generally speaking, I'll speak quickly to Tomb Raider, and then we'll talk about Battlefront and everything that's kind of going on with that. Some of you may have seen me play Tomb Raider. I played through all three of them briefly. It was like over an hour or something. I kind of just flicked through all of them. And it's one of those remasters where it's polished, but it's still very similar. And there is a button just like in Halo where like it goes back to the old graphics and then back to the new, and you can kind of tell. Okay, I get it. It's like a little bit different, but I will also say there are times where I'll forget what setting I'm on, and then I'll press it. I'm like, oh yeah, these were not the good graphics, and then like I'd like forget about it.
You switch back to the old ones, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. And but so the thing that I've really found from this whole playing through these three games is how goddamn hard they are. I didn't know that Tomb Raider games were so difficult, Nick. Did you know this? This is common knowledge that people hadn't. Do you know this?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I have not played them personally, but I know it's they can be pretty brutal.
Yeah, no. I mean, I died in the most masochistic ways. Just like to fucking like I make it past a panther, and then I jump into like a little lane, and then I get crushed by a giant rolling snowball. Like, I mean, but nevertheless, they are still fun, and I think that ultimately they are very accurate kind of representations of what the games were when they came out. I think that really brings us to the kind of the center of the conversation for today, I think, which is the three R's. We got remasters, remakes, and reboots. But let's talk about Battlefront. What is Battlefront? Is it which one of the R's? It's not
So
reboot.
of the R's, it would most closely resemble a remaster. Um, it's really weird though, because it's kind of like a port of the old games, but they like AI upscaled a lot of the textures and stuff like that. So like
Oh,
if you do a side by side comparison, like certain elements of it, you know, will look better
sure,
than the originals. Better in quotes because
sure.
like you whenever, companies do this, like I'm not going to say it's just like Aspire that, is guilty of this, but a lot of like bringing these old projects back on newer hardware, stuff gets screwed up so easily, it
Yeah,
seems. And like, different like effects or filters or something aren't present like they are in the original. So it ends up looking different.
yeah.
Um,
And the
so
TVs
I
that you're
think
playing on is totally,
exactly, yeah. A CRT versus a modern LCD screen is not gonna.
yeah,
It's just gonna look different. That's the thing.
yep,
But yeah, Battlefront obviously has not been having a very good launch.
yeah.
There's been a plethora of issues. I was personally really excited because I played the originals, Battlefront 2 more so than the first one,
Mm,
and I love those games. Like Battlefront 2 is probably like if I were to really sit down and think about games that like, meant a lot to me when I was like growing up, Battlefront 2 would probably be on that list. Like I
oh
played
wow,
so much of that game, and I was excited because I was like, hey, it's like, a new re-release. They're gonna have new servers. Like hop in and play like online. Like that sounds awesome. I never got to experience that. And then I saw that like there was a number floating around that they had like 3 dedicated servers like total.
yeah. And I
And
think
it's like,
yeah,
oh my god. And I've seen clips of like lag, there's weird sound issues. Um the game did get a patch recently that I think has addressed like at least some of the issues. Like there was missing
right.
cutscenes in the story, which is like crazy. And I believe those are fixed now, but it's like
You
It's
had
one of
a.
those ones where it's like this should have been like a home run because like there's a lot of fans of these
That's
games
the thing.
and
I've
it
never
just
played these games, and I always, when the Battlefront reboots happened, um,
mhm.
everyone that was what I hear everyone say. It's like, oh, the originals, the originals. And yet here we are. What about the originals, huh? What happened? Look what happened to your dream. No,
Buy an Xbox or a PS2, I guess.
no. But I think that generally for going into something like this, my expectation is always for like a multiplayer, like brace for impact. So I did hear the same thing, same thing that you did. It was like, yeah, it was like a handful. Again, it could be like in single digits. I'm not really sure what it was, but server count, and I think there was like some 2,000 people that were in queue or something. Like, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, did they expect the game to not do well? Because it's 64 players per server. So to have such
Yeah.
handful, I would be curious to see like what made them say so. I don't
So
know.
Aspire has been over the last couple years, doing a lot of these like classic Star Wars
Right.
game ports.
Hmm.
They were behind like bringing back Knights of the Old Republic and the Jedi Knight games.
Right.
Like they've been doing a whole lot of these, and like I'm not sure any of those probably hit like a super crazy level. Like I'm sure they did fine, as much as like a HD port of like a game could do.
Sure.
But I feel like Battlefront probably did have an audience that wasn't being tapped with those games that they were not expecting.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, like I people talk about KOTOR, people talk about Jedi Knight, they talk about Dark Forces even, which Night Dive recently brought back.
Yeah.
But like from the casual kind of perspective, I feel like Battlefront just like a lot of more people played. It kind of seeped into you know the sphere more
Sure.
often than some of those other games. And so like I think they were competing with that, but also it's just like you see like some of the issues and it's like, man, like what happened?
Yeah. No. Um. I mean, I I won't get I won't get further down the rabbit hole of just specifically Battlefront, but I want to kind of bring it kind of broader to generally, remakes, remasters, and reboots. And weirdly, I mean, again, we're talking about. I think originally we were going to talk a little bit about launches, and then but we like and Nick knows where that was going. But we wanted to start it off on a different note. So instead, we're going to talk about like best and worst of each in recent memory, starting with remasters. Nick, what's a like recently great remastered, and what's one that was maybe not up to. And if you don't have one that's not up to par, you can say skip.
Sure. You kind of got to think because remastering games more so I feel like now and in the PS4 generation got way more popular than they had ever been. I mean,
Right.
there's some examples of remasters on like, PS2 and Xbox of like older games and stuff like that, but it really wasn't like a real big thing until we had these like previous generation and this generation, and it just seems like, every year we have tons of remasters and,
Yeah.
remakes, reboots, everything here. Trying to think of. I mean, I have one that I know recently didn't do super hot, and that was when they did Last of Us Part One on PS5. I
That's my
remember.
favorite, dude. That's my favorite one. I was
What
actually going to say that was my favorite.
was it? It was the PC version that had a lot of issues, right? It wasn't the PS5 version, or did they both have issues?
Look at this, Nick. Look at this. Look at this dirty ass case. Shout
Oh,
out,
there it is.
shout out to Austin for getting me this. But
Yeah,
anyway, no, I was not actually not going to say that game. It was not on my radar, but I was just joking.
that was one that just kind of dropped into my mind because that's a hugely popular fan favorite game. It already had a remaster from the
Yeah.
PS3 version to the PS4 version, so like I know that they were doing a lot more work with the PS5 version, but I think I'm specifically thinking of the PC port of it because I remember Naughty Dog I think did that in house,
Yeah.
and it wasn't Nixus who's been doing a lot of the Sony PC ports. So it was like, I think maybe there was just some issues with that in general. But that was one that kind of stood out to me as like a recent one that's like, stamped remaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, trying to
Um.
think.
Well, I'll see. Let's see. What's the best one? I'm actually like, I mean, I came to this topic completely unprepared apparently, because as soon as I started talking about it, I was like, okay, what's a remaster? I have I have ones for at least the other two, but for
Mhm.
remastered, okay, I guess we'll stick with Naughty Dog, the Uncharted collection. I mean, those are all remastered.
Mhm.
I think those are all solid remasters. Um, I don't. I mean, maybe do I not play a lot of remasters now? I mean, like, I have to. I have to have played some remasters.
It also gets a little bit blurry, with remasters and like because in the time that we are in, it's like I feel like the line between that and like a next gen version is like kind of blurred too, because it's like you get a lot of these ones where it's like, oh, we're getting like a PS5 native version of this game, or a Series X version of this game, and it's like those are like kind of like disguised remasters almost. Like I guess they're more ports maybe than like a specific like remaster. But I would want to highlight the work of Night Dive Studio. I mentioned them with the Star Wars Dark Forces remaster. They do a lot of remasters specifically of older games and like older shooters. They were behind like Doom 64 when that
Oh,
came
okay.
back, and Star Wars Dark Forces, and a bunch of other of those type of games. I believe they were also doing the Rise of the Triad version that came out recently,
Oh, okay.
and they are incredible at their craft. Like they, preserve the original art direction because talking about the wider conversation between remasters, remakes, reboots, that's always like a really big sticking point for fans is, what if they mess up, the
Right.
art direction, or they mess up something, they take it in a different direction that's not what the original game was about or what the original artists were intending with some of those like visuals.
Yeah.
But they do such a great job in their games of maintaining that, making sure the games run really well, having very limited bugs in their games, and then also just like loading it up with like customization options and stuff like that. They were also behind the Quake remasters that have been coming out the last couple years, and it's like Quake 2 had like 8-player split screen or something like that.
Oh,
Like
wow.
stuff like that is like that's awesome to see. So I
All
think
right.
they definitely
Uh,
deserve a highlight.
I'm gonna go with an easy one, for me at least, which is Gears of War Ultimate Edition. I personally really liked Gears of War Ultimate Edition. It was actually I've played it multiple times because I enjoyed it so much, um, and I believe that was done by Coalition, right? That was their first, or that was the first time they developed themselves,
Yeah, I believe so.
and then they went on to make five and no 4 and 5, I guess.
Hmm.
I will get around to playing all the other ones. I've only played 1 and 2 and 3, so I need to go play all three again, and then Judgment, and then 4 and 5. I'll do this.
I played the original three and Judgment. I don't think I've done any of the other ones.
Judgment. I remember always reminded me of Resistance. Do you remember Resistance,
I have them. I've never played them though.
dude? Okay. Off topic. Well, actually, maybe no, no. I'll keep it on topic. I'll switch. A game that really needs a remake. Resistance. Sony, please. We don't need another Last of Us remastered. Please give Insomniac the money, or Blue Point, or whoever it is. So, but Resistance is essentially this across a trilogy. You really have to play them across the three games, and I would recommend, if you can, play them back to back. That's what I did, and well, at least I played that way for the first two games, and then the third game came later. But it is so interesting to see this narrative unfold. I mean, it goes in a direction that I don't think you will kind of expect, especially if you go in not knowing anything. Um, but yeah, one of my
Are they long
absolute
games?
nah, no, they're like 8, 9 hours.
perfect.
Yeah, no, it's that it's and um man, I could talk about Resistance a lot because they go. It's a beautiful progression going from this kind of very like first person shooter that was still trying to figure out how the hell a first person shooter should control on the on the PS3, and then Resistance 2 is totally above that, and it's like a smooth and totally different. And Resistance 3 is a super, I think, overlooked kind of AAA experience, or in that way. Anyway, now that I've said that, let's talk about remakes. Now, this one I know mine right off the bat, so I'm just gonna go for it, Nick. And I think I think I would guess one of yours, but I'll say mine is Resident Evil 4. It is a stunning piece of work. I mean, really. I mean, I love Resident Evil Village, and it's that same kind of polish and attention to detail that is applied to a game that has already fundamentally worked like multiple times over and over again on different consoles. So yeah, I mean it was I mean a hell of a fucking game, and it was my first time really going through it all. Like I mean, I remember playing it in bursts at like friends' houses or like on demos and stuff, but going through it kind of sitting on a couch and go through it was awesome for the first time.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 Remake was a lot of fun last year. I don't normally, go back and replay games right when I'm done. It's not because, like, with my
Are you leading in? I see what
collecting
you're leading
habit,
in, I think.
yeah, with my collecting habits, like I have so many other games that I'm usually moving on to the next thing whenever I finish a game. Resident Evil 4, I think I replayed like 3 or 4 times, like going like for
Oh,
speedrun
damn.
like kind of things afterwards. And I did end up playing the DLC that they put out like around September or October last year.
That I have not
And
played.
yeah, it's just like it's a kick-ass game, honestly. The original is amazing, obviously. It's what I find interesting is like it's definitely a remake, so they definitely change things from the original, but it's more on the safe side of a remake than something like
Resident
the
Evil
Final
3.
Fantasy VII
Oh,
remake
sure, that
project,
one too.
which is like I have not played them, and I am wanting to start the original here soon, so like I might start playing these games, this year, but from everything that I've heard about those games, it's like it constantly is playing with, fan expectations, but not in a way where it's making people salty or upset. Like it always seems like it's, surprising in a good way for returning fans as well as just being like an awesome game for newcomers as well.
Right.
Which I think is interesting, right? It's like that's
No, yeah.
definitely a risk, like changing something like that in a remake, because
Yeah.
we have, I feel like, plenty of examples of where they do that and it doesn't work, and it's just like, yeah,
I think that's the thing though
crazy.
when it comes to a remake, I think it's a little bit easier to lose intention based on like I think small changes in a remake can kind of drastically kind of change, especially if they're kind of just not as kind of forethought. It can kind of suck the life out of a game when especially when you're going back and you're like, this is not how I remembered this. Um,
Hmm.
and so
I
yeah,
feel like character performances is the one that a lot of people get hooked up on, especially if
sure,
they remake those. It's just like this character is completely different than
yeah,
how
yeah.
they were
And
in
I
the other
think part of
ones.
that, I mean, look, I do it. I've probably done that too, but I feel like also like I think the rose colored headphones always always do that too. Or
Hmm.
the different way we remember it. So so what would be yours? What was your favorite? Was it like you've locked that in, or are you just kind of generally discussing it?
Oh, I was just kind of generally discussing. As far as remakes go, um, yeah, I'd have to think about that a little bit. Uh,
Ooh, I thought you were gonna go for Dead Space. That's why I brought it out.
Last year, I probably would. I did like Dead Space quite a lot, and I don't think I think it was because I, missed it, right? Like I played the Dead Space games in high school, and leading up to Dead Space remake, my one friend Shane, who I've known like all my life, he's a huge Resident Evil 4 fan, and he's always heard that Dead Space is like, Resident Evil 4 in space, but he had never played them. And so he was playing through them for the first time. And I actually, signed into my Origin account for the first time in forever because we wanted to do Dead Space 3 co op, which I had never done. And I discovered that my Origin that was made, years
Right.
ago had an Isaac Clarke profile picture on it,
Wow.
and I was like, "Hey,
OG.
good to know that I had
You were there. You were there. You were not. You were not. One of the new
consistent
fans.
taste all these years." But yeah, I really loved that remake. That is, we were talking about, next gen looking games. I feel like even more so than Resident Evil 4, Dead Space looked.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
This is a new gen game.
Yeah.
Like, and it was another thing where it was like
Callisto Protocol too. Callisto Protocol too.
Yeah. They were so smart with Dead Space though, because it's like it is different because Isaac has a voice, and
right.
that's such a weird thing to think about. That like the first game, he was basically a silent protagonist outside of
and honestly, I can't imagine after playing Dead Space remake how it could have not had it. If for some, like, I mean, it was like it feels so natural that you're like, yeah, this is how it should be.
It's seamless.
Yeah,
it's implemented so well. And then like all the other parts, it's like any part that in the original that was like bad. Like there's one spot in particular where you get on like a turret and you have to blast asteroids, and it sucks. It's so bad in the original.
Yeah.
And the remake, they just like completely change it and make it like way more accessible and way nicer. Like it's not the exact same as the original, but what they have there still looks equally as cool as the original while changing up what you're doing. And it's like just like sprinkling that in everywhere. It's just a very smart remake.
Yeah.
I'd say definitely in recent times that would probably be one of my favorites.
There's another one that I mean, I guess generally discussing it while we're on the topic. Remakes for Mafia. Mafia 1 remake is really, really good, and in terms of how accurate it is of a kind of a, it makes you really appreciate how the original was so good at its writing, and then it presents it in a way that's like you like the definitive way to experience it. And it's actually the first time I played through a game with a filter on. I played the entire thing in noir, so it was all black and white, and it was so sick. Just kind of, it really feels like a crime drama, and like the characters and the performances really lean into it, and so it's like it has, it's a really fun time. Mafia 2 is also a really good game, but it has nowhere near the love and attention that the first one did. It is nothing. And then the third one, another one I have on the shelf. I like pulling things off of the shelf, it seems. There it is. The third one, there's not even like a if anything, I think the definitive edition broke the game. There's so many things in this game that like feel unfinished, and I played it not right when it came out, but there was some time, and like textures for places wouldn't load in, and there's like weird bugs, and I did write a review for it for Mafia 3, and I actually did say I liked it because the story and narrative is so interesting. I mean, there's some really cool kind of like radio things that it does where like over the course of a few hours, you'll hear like radio shows, topics that are kind of like are topical. But the technical performance of this definitive edition really dragged it down. I still gave it a good score, but.
And that was another weird one because it was like that. I mean, the game had issues. Like I remember when I played it, because I played it around when it came out as well, and it was like, like you said, like I remember the story being pretty interesting and having like some cool stuff, but I just remember it being like such a slog for the rest of the gameplay where you're trying to clear those districts and stuff. Like it felt like not great. And then those definitive versions, it's like that was a PS4 game. It's like what
Yeah.
happened? Again, that's just another one of those ones where it's just like it seems it's hard for us as like, more casual people that aren't developers to just like latch on and be like, what's getting lost in translation here?
I would love, and I'm going to put this out there, on Respawn Station, we've interviewed a few developers. I would love to have some developers on just to see, just to chat. I've just to see, pick their brain a little bit. Because I think so far the interviews we've done, we've been very kind of like we throw them a few questions and they throw back the responses. But I think a kind of a more organic conversation, even if it's like for contained like 30 minutes or whatever, or however long, I mean that'd be really cool. But anyway, that mechanics that you were talking about, the slog part that you were talking about Mafia 3, leads me into the next category, because Nick, that same mechanic is in Saints Row, the reboot for the Saints Row franchise. I recently played it at the end of last year, right after I had my ACL surgery. It was one of my post-op recovery games, and I'll tell you what. There's actually I wasn't as like sharp or hateful of it as I think people were online. There's some charm there. There's there's missions where like you're LARPing, and so everyone's like, like even the finishers you do are like pow pow, and then the guys are like, oh, you got me. Like it's just like like that stuff is fun, but it has totally different. Like the context is totally bonkers, and I can't tell what it's trying to say, because in one moment it's like super like satirical and like on the nose, and then the next is trying to be serious, but like then also it shifts to like the characters that you're following are not that like endearing, and so yeah, it just kind of leads into a real big mess, which ultimately I think ended up did they shut down, or did they like get downsized? I think, right?
I believe they were shut down because they were under Embracer.
Because yeah, I think yes. Oh man, again, well, Embracer is that's a topic for itself. But no, that brings us to obviously the topic of remakes. So I think that Saints Row is a kind of a recent botched reboot. But what's a good? I mean, I was gonna lean back on Resident Evil, but I don't think Resident Evil is a reboot. I think they just remade. I mean, I guess maybe Resident Evil 7 you could say is a reboot, but like it's not like they didn't start over. It's just a system rehaul. You know what I mean? They does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think 7 that would be the closest to a reboot if
right?
We're like talking about it in those terms. It is weird though, because it's like, it has 7 on it. It's still a continuation.
Yeah.
Reboots, I think, they're weird because they are kind of like remakes, but I guess remake would be contained to like a specific game that came out before,
right?
And a reboot is like, a reimagining. I think Saints Row is a good example of that, where it's just like this doesn't seem like it's connected at all to the previous ones, but we're using the name again.
Yeah.
I think this is a weird one pull up, but to bring back the Arcane thing would be Prey, the 2016 one, because that's just like a different game that uses the same name as an older.
And there's like a recent interview that was done about how like that wasn't like it wasn't originally meant to be a Prey game, and it had a different title, but then like last second they're like told like, hey, it's sci-fi, there's some stuff going on, just make it Prey. And I believe that's how that game came to be, which did not surprise me at all hearing that, and seeing how different Prey is from where it takes its name.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some stuff that I've played that would be really considered like a reboot. Like I played the 2016 Ratchet and Clank game, which I think that's considered a reboot because like it started into like the new games, but I know people don't really like that game, so it's like
right.
That's another kind of example of like kind of a botched one. Tomb Raider, I'd say. 2013 one. to wrap it around to that again. That was pretty good one. I played that one.
Yes, actually, yeah, that whole Crystal Dynamics trilogy, I think, is pretty solid of a reboot. Like I think they actually successfully like completed their mission. You know what I mean? Like they rebooted this thing. They made 3 games that were like kind of had a story that was kind of a solid package, and then they made Avengers, I think. But no, yeah, I definitely agree. Tomb Raider's up there. Way to bring it back, I guess. Is there a Tomb Raider remake that we don't know about? Because then it would win all the. It'd be in all the categories.
They are working on a new game, I think, but I don't think.
Oh,
it's
dude,
like
you want to know something? All right, so I recently, I've been in. I finally compiled. I recently put together a bookshelf, not the one behind me, but I've put together a bookshelf where I organize all my movies and books, and so I have like all my movies are kind of listed in alphabetical order, and I've been picking ones off, and that's literally the whole. I mean, Nick, I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's literally the reason I collect physical stuff, is because I can literally go up to the wall and pick it up off the wall, and so I've been enjoying that, and so I picked out Lara Croft Tomb Raider starring Angelina Jolie, and the movie, a crazy ride. I'm not even going to get into it, but there's on the special features, I didn't know this, but there's like a featurette about Tomb Raider, the game. And apparently it was originally like Lara Croft's character was originally supposed to be a man, but then Indiana Jones came out and they're like, we can't just do another man. And so they made her into a woman, and that's how Lara Croft came to be. And so I was like, wow, I learned something about the game on the Blu-ray special features of Tomb Raider Lara Croft with Angelina Jolie. Yeah, it was great. But anyway, for reboots.
I was going to say a couple other ones for reboots, unless you had some that you wanted to go through.
No. Go ahead. I don't have anything on.
I have my Steam library up, so I was try to refresh myself on some of these. I keep pulling a lot of like 2016, 2017 games, but Doom.
Oh yeah,
probably one of the better examples of a reboot. I think people generally like. There's classic Doom fans and new Doom fans, but I think generally most people really like 2016 and Doom Eternal.
Yeah. Would you? Oh wait, the obvious one, Wolfenstein. We just talked about it.
Wolfenstein.
That's a reboot. I mean, for all intents and purposes.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, what would you put it on your kind of roster? Would you sound a little kind of skeptical?
If we were doing like a tier list or something, I would probably put it in like a B tier.
Sure. Sure.
I was talking to my buddy Shane that I mentioned earlier about Indiana Jones when that trailer came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm looking forward to that game. I was like, Machine Games, they kind of make like, a solid 8 for their games, and it's like
it's a
that's
safe
what I'm expecting
bet.
out of
Dude. Machine
Indiana
Games
Jones.
are a safe bet. And
exactly.
Is Youngblood is Machine Games?
Youngblood is, as far as I'm aware, it's co-developed with Machine and Arcane. Weirdly
really?
Enough. Mm-hmm.
Damn, you are correct. And Panic Button, it says.
I'm not even sure what
it's Machine Games, like Arcane Studios, and Panic Button Games. Let's see what Panic Button has done. Jedi Fallen Order, Apex Legends, Forza Horizon 4, Torchlight.
Yeah, sounds like they're like a support studio.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. So definitely not mainline. But when did this come out? 2019. So does that mean that what were they working on at this point? Would it be the Indiana Jones game? 2019. Yeah. What were they working on back then that they couldn't? This was not their main focus.
So there have been rumors, and like I've at least seen an official comment in some video where I definitely think that they have a desire to do a third Wolfenstein, like in this like the new series or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have to think that they were probably working on that at some point until they got
Indiana Jones came in with his great circle.
So yeah, I think there's probably, if there's not two teams working at that studio, they were probably working on that, and then probably were like, okay, we'll do Indiana Jones, and then go
Would
back to
Indiana
Wolfenstein.
Jones be considered a reboot? Because it wasn't really a game series. It was just kind of a series of games that just happened to have the same title. You know what I mean?
That's a weird one, yeah, because like it seems like they're, at least from the marketing when they showed the trailer, that they're kind of slotting it into the movies.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we're canon. Like,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah.
I don't think any of the other games are
Have you
considered.
seen the new Indiana Jones movie?
I have not. I wanted to, and then I saw a lot of people say it was bad, and then I didn't end
See,
up
it's
going.
crazy. Do you know anything about it?
I know that he's old in it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's exactly. So this is not a movie podcast, but I watch a lot of movies, so I'm sure there'll be some talk in there. But I got a free IMAX ticket to Indiana Jones, and so I was like, why not? And I went in first day, not knowing nothing to expect, and holy shit, dude, there's something happens, and maybe I'm not like I've watched the Indiana Jones movies, at least the first two, and at least the first one and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I've watched at least that, and there's some of the stuff that there's something that happens in the new one that I just it was crazy. I don't want to ruin it, but I want you to experience that, and I want you to get back to me. Maybe it's not as crazy to you if you're an Indiana Jones
Crazy
fan.
good or crazy bad?
I'm not gonna say anything. I feel like I don't want to impact your decision. You know what I mean? I'm not that kind of guy. But anyway, that I think we've covered all we've covered the 3 R's. That is not something I'm going to patent anytime soon. That is not a good sounding.
Oh my god, wait a minute. I can't believe I forgot this before we end this conversation.
Okay. Yep. Go.
I got to talk about my beloved Tony Hawk.
Oh snap! Yeah.
They've hit both extreme ends with the amazing Pro Skater 1 and 2 by Vicarious Visions,
Yep.
and the horrible Pro Skater HD from Robomoto back when they were the lead developer on them. And it's like Pro Skater HD, and by extension Pro Skater 5, and Tony Hawk Ride and Shred. Those games are almost borderline unplayable. And for me, when I played Pro Skater 5, I was I heard that this game was bad, and I was still kind of what? When I was playing it, this is bad. And then Pro Skater 1+2 from 2020, I think was when it came out.
Yeah.
That was my game of the year. I loved what they did, and then they freaking got folded into Blizzard, and I was like, yeah, we had a good thing going here.
In the end.
Why get punished for doing a good thing?
The acquisition comes for us all, Nick.
So I'm hoping Phil Spencer has my back here, because that's the only hope.
Dude, Uncle Phil, man, he's got it. If anyone's got it, it's Uncle Phil. Is there, and then that's fair. Is there anything else in the remakes, reboots, remastered? Any last minute contenders?
Halo Master Chief Collection. I played a little bit of that recently, but that's kind of a repackaging of other remasters. I mean, they have Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2.
Right.
Remasters than I think the other ones, but that's a
Halo's
decent
cool.
one. That was another one that had a rough launch, but I think it's in a much better place now, definitely from what I've played at least.
Yeah. All right, so with that, we move on to the final segment of the show, which has already reached past the 1 hour time that we had set out for.
We knew it was going to happen.
It was going to happen, yeah. So today, the last segment is the inbox. Nick, you should, every time I say it, say ding. That's how it should work. The inbox. Ding. Oh, there you go. That's it. I'm going to forget to say it now, so I can't even take advantage of that. But no, so this is essentially we go through the emails. I go through the emails of the last week, and I pick out some ones that I think are worth shouting out. Games that look cool or caught my eye in some way, shape, or form. and I hope you guys appreciate. I went through a lot of emails, but specifically, I went through 3 press releases about simulators. How many simulators can we possibly want, people? How is this possible? I don't even know if I want to say all these. Screw it. I'll say all the names. There's Bakery Simulator. There's like Mid-South Highway Cop Simulator. Dude, I don't even know the third one. But I'm the filter for you guys. I've filtered out the simulator games, and so now we're going to talk about some ones that I think that are worth checking out. First off, we have Deceit 2. This actually came out, and there's a write-up on it over on Respawn Station. But the brief summary: Deceit 2 came out back in last April, I believe, and it was a full price release it was a priced release on Steam. But as of last week, it is a free-to-play title, and so you can pick it up on Steam for free. And on April 3rd, they kick off their first season, and the game launches on the PlayStation 5 and I believe the Xbox Series X and S. So it's going to consoles at the very least. So it's going to consoles, and it's starting its first season. And so it's kind of doing that free to play model. So there's a battle pass type of thing, and so you can unlock the more you play. That's the general gist of it, but it is free to play. So it's currently still mixed on Steam, but I recommend checking it out. I actually do plan on checking it out. Maybe we'll stream it a little bit and see how it goes. But it's a multiplayer social espionage. Oh, hold on. There's a word that let me find the wording. I'm just going to pull up my own article and just read it at this rate. Social deduction horror game. That's what it is. Social deduction horror game. But yeah, it's currently in the preseason from now until April 3rd, and then it comes out on the PS5 and Xbox Series XS. And also for
social deduction, like Among Us. Like
yes, pretty much. It's like that, yeah. Okay. But there's like a ritual going on, and essentially the idea is that there's 2 infected in the group, and the innocent have to figure out who the infected are, because the infected are trying to make this ritual happen for the game master, I think, is something like that. Rough explanation. But for anyone who was wondering, if you purchased the game ahead of the free-to-play schedule, that just happened last week, then you will receive a werewolf pack, which is their first expansion pack, 3 crypt keys, in-game currency, and the Season 1 pass for free at launch, which is I thought was pretty nice. Another one. Let's see here. We have there's quite a few games that are definitely on my radar. I'm trying to sift through so we're not going through. Okay, this was a random one. There's a game called Cartel Tycoon, which is essentially like a tycoon game where you're trying to grow a cartel. That's all you really need to know about it. But it has a really funny trailer that just kind of like, if that's the tone of the game, then I'll be down to check it out, because
that sounds like it might be a fun one to try out.
Okay, here we go. Scare Ritual. This is it's spelled SKER and then Ritual. It is launching on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series XS on April 18th. It is a round-based survival horror zombie FPS. So I'd imagine if you played like Call of Duty Zombies, you'd feel pretty safe. But this is essentially a spin-off to the British horror game called Made of Scare. I think we actually might have covered it back in the day as well. But yeah, this caught my eye. I'm actually looking forward to this one as well. Just the general shift of tone from the games and everything that this looks to be. I'm down for. I'm not huge into Call of Duty Zombies, but like I can dip in every now and then and have a good time.
My buddies and I used to play it like religiously, and we played it so much that I got so burnt out that like I literally never want to play it ever again. Honestly, like some of my friends have been like, "Hey, you want to boot up Zombies?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good."
I think the last time I played Zombies was actually when I made my PlayStation account again. Like I made a new one after college, and it was the first game I played was Black Ops 4, and I was like in my mind, dude, I was like, I'm gonna be a huge trophy hunter. And so I grinded for some Black Ops 4 trophies. I did like a whole bunch of stuff on zombies, but that was the last time I played zombies on a Call of Duty, and it's not quite the same because I remember like Black Ops 1 and 2. Like, I mean, no, Black Ops 1, that zombies like I scared the shit out of me, dude. I was like, why is this so intense? Like fucking, you get left alone and you're like, wait, what the fuck, dude? What happened to the team? I took it very seriously.
That was the one that we played the most, was Black Ops 1. And then after that, I was kind of done.
Yeah. I played Black Ops 2 because it had the bus that kind of went around. That was a cool kind of fun thing to do. But
that's one of the last Call of Duties that I have not played. Is Black Ops 2.
Oh, damn. Really?
I know it's like a fan favorite one, too.
That's crazy.
I have it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
I actually just recently replayed the first 2 games. Still have to play the third one, but man, they really do. They are good for a reason. I mean, they are kind of beloved for a reason. And I think they said this year was like the idea was like Gulf War, right? Black Ops Gulf War, something like that. Because there's Cold War, so now it's Gulf War. I don't know. I haven't played the last Call of Duty either. I've given them my money with Modern Warfare 2. But anyway, the last one on the inbox for now, unless I'll give one last look at it. But this is actually one that I've been looking forward to. But again, I haven't played many games recently, so I haven't gotten the chance to actually take a look at it yet. But it's called Outcast: A New Beginning. It's an open world action adventure game. It's essentially been 2 decades since the first one came out. And so this new one continues the Cutter Slade's journey, as the protagonist's name, as he kind of goes into this open world called Adelpha. Now, here's the thing. The reason why I haven't played the first one, my interest is not from like a prior understanding of this. It's just the trailers. The game looks super vibrant, and he has a jetpack. And I'm a sucker for THQ games that are open worlds with vibrant worlds that have jetpack. I mean, it's just Elix 2, it's just where it works out that way. But yeah, the game is available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and by the way, it's on consoles it's $70. On PC it's $60. So yeah, there you go. But with that said, that brings us to the kind of the general end of the first episode. Almost an hour and a half that we've gone into this, and I'm proud of us that we ended it so early. We could have gone for the 2 hours mark if we wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun though. So
I love just talking about video games, and I've been wanting to do this. We were talking about how we haven't really. I mean, I haven't done a formal podcast like this in a while, and neither has Nick. It was the botched episode of Resident Evil that was the last one that Nick did. So here we are. I'm glad we could fix the make up for it. There we go. Because I mean the reviews are in, Nick. The overlay looks great, and so you have to go on YouTube to check that out. And at least it sounds good. That's all we needed to know. But anyway, with that said, people, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did and you want to see more of this stuff, then hit the like button and, of course, subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our new content. And check out RespawnStation.com. We're back. We had a little bit of a hiatus from me being sick and then traveling and then Nick being sick. So now we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. So more content. Jesus, some more content is on the way. That was a loud beep in my ears. So stay tuned. But until next time, as always, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time. Peace.